I'm Juan Francisco, and I'm a psychic medium. I'm here with you to explore your intuition, the supernatural, and self-empowerment. This is Third Eyesight. Hey, Third Eyesight listeners and newcomers. Welcome to another episode this week. I just want to briefly call myself out because if you follow me on Instagram, I had just bought a lavalier microphone and I posted about it. I even tested it. I put it on my collar of my shirt. I recorded a video and I walked like 25 feet away and then slowly walked back to my camera as I said, this is how this microphone sounds. I'm going to use it on my podcast because it's going to be some way for me to not have to knock over this microphone that you're seeing right now, YouTube watchers, that I may sometimes hit with my very expressive Latino Italian hands. And I've gone back to using this Blue microphone. That's the company. I think it's Blue or Samsung. I forget. And I feel a little bit of a fool because here I'm like, I'm going to buy a new lavalier lapel microphone. I'm going to use it. It's going to be great. And I tested it today and it sounded bad. It sounds good when you're doing like you're walking around and recording or like you're outside and recording probably. I haven't tested that yet. But to sit with you and record an episode, I need to use this microphone that I actually put good money into. And so I feel like a fool calling myself out. And it's just a reminder, I think, from the universe, don't fix what's not broken. Because the only thing that really I have to manage as I use this microphone with this arm that it's attached to is not to move my arms too much or to move my arms in a way that it doesn't destroy my setup that you see here on YouTube. Well, anyways, I wanted to use the opportunity to look at a Reddit post. So I've been a part of the Medium's Reddit group for quite a while, but I don't check it very often, and I checked it recently, and there are so many interesting questions and topics that are brought up, and I think it'd be great to talk about those questions that people ask and those wonderings and curiosities and sometimes the gripes that people share. So I'm going to read this podcast post that is inspiring this episode. It is posted by Parmesan_Papi89. Love the name, and I like Parmesan. Posted on the the Mediums Reddit group. The post says, well, the title is Thoughts on the quote-unquote one source after death. They said, I've heard numerous times to the point that I can't recollect how many times I've heard it that when we die, we go back to the source. That we are all part of one being or one source of love and light. Does that sound daunting to you guys? Are we stripped of our individuality? There are some really shoddy people in this world, and I'm hard-pressed to believe that I'm one with them. Oh, the age-old question, and it's a very good one to ask a group of mediums. Because I'm sure different mediums will have different things to say, and maybe I'll scroll through and read some of the responses folks had on the thread. But before I do that, I'm going to share with you my thoughts. I'll start with, I read the books Conversations with God by Neale Donald Walsch many years ago. Over 10 years ago, maybe about 10 years ago. It was after a year or within the year after my first breakup. And those books changed my life. They changed my perspective on the world, on the universe, right and wrong, karma, past lives. And I think, from what I remember the book saying, and I don't even know if I fully agree with everything the books say, okay? Just want to disclaim that. There's some things in the book that they're hard pills to swallow. But one of the things that the book says is there is no such thing as right and wrong, only what serves you and doesn't serve you. And to a point, I do believe that. I believe that there are certain things I think as a human community we have decided are wrong and rightfully are wrong. Wait, that's kind of ironic to say it that way, but they are wrong. Like taking someone's life is wrong. That's taking someone else's decision to live or to die. You're doing it against their will. That is wrong. And then there are many other things like being gay. A woman wearing a skirt, a short skirt. Other things that we add judgment to based on our cultural understandings, what different cultures have decided are right and wrong. So then when you get into that territory, it gets very confusing, right? Or another example is, that's kind of fleeting. Those are not very, maybe to some of us, not very important examples, but maybe a very relevant example for the sake of this topic is, there are some actions that people will take in some circumstances and they're wrong. But in other circumstances, people will think they're right. War is a very good example of that. Just war. A justified war versus an unjustified war. Killing people for the right cause versus killing people for the wrong cause. And that's a whole other moral discussion that I won't go into. Something those books, Conversations with God, said, and I'm going to paraphrase, that even the most heinous people who've lived on earth are in heaven. I remember when I first read that, I thought, what? Like, excuse me? It challenged a belief that I had. And it's a very troubling perspective for many of us, including myself. Now, I don't believe in hell. So if I don't believe in hell, then where do the heinous, evil people go? And so coming back to this user's question, when we die, we go back to the source. We're all part of one being or one source of love and light. And I think they're asking two questions here. Are we, one, stripped of our individuality? And two, are we going to be mixed in with all the other individuals who did horrible things on this planet? So to the first question about individuality, and I've hit on this before on the podcast. Something we can't quite grasp, I think, is how our souls are both individual and not individual. Our souls are individual waves, part of a vast ocean, individual droplets in a huge glass of water. We are ourselves, and we are also all that is. We are God made manifest to experience the universe on a physical, individual level. God, the universe, wanted to experience something different or a different form of itself. So it created life to experience itself in a different form. And in experiencing itself in a different form, God is expressing itself through many different personalities, aka us. We are individuals, but we are also all connected because we all are born and come from the same source. So when we die, when we pass, our soul goes back to that bigger light. Our soul goes back into that vast, beautiful ocean that is God. But it doesn't forget that it was a wave. It doesn't forget that it was a droplet. It just goes back home. And it carries all that memory of being a droplet, being an individual wave with it back to the ocean. So it's yes and. Or no but. Yes, we are individuals when we pass. We are individuals. And we also lose our individuality. That's my belief. No, we're not individuals, but we do remember when we were individuals. It's very hard to think about sometimes, hard to grasp, because how can we be both something and nothing? How can we be both one thing and everything at the same time? Energy is neither created nor destroyed. God is neither created nor destroyed. and we just transfer back to the true essence of who we are, which is outside of our bodies. Which is, what I mean to say is outside the confines of our human bodies. Even my own mind is like going in different directions because it's a big concept to grasp. It's a huge concept to grasp. To the second point brought up in the Reddit post, this user says, I'm going to repeat, there are some shoddy people in this world that I'm hard pressed to believe that I'm one with them. This is where it gets extremely tricky. And in my last episode on the podcast, I shared my personal input on what's going on in the world and the things that we are struggling with as a planet, as a human community right now. And there are so many people who want others to be in harm's way, who want to do harm to others right now. And you may ask someone like me, are you telling me that you believe those people are going to go to the same heaven I'm going to be in? And I'm sorry, but I think the answer is yes. Why do I believe that? Because I don't believe in hell. I don't. I grew up with a huge fear of going to hell because I'm gay. And I realized, well, if there are people who think that I deserve to go to hell because I decide to love another man for the rest of my life, and I believe they're wrong, then what else do people believe about who deserves to go to hell? That could just be opinion and be wrong. Who is right? Who is incorrect with this opinion? How do we really know? I believe we all come to this planet to experience life, to learn from it, to evolve. Some of us are very unlucky. I don't know why. Maybe because there's something that we have to learn. Something different we have to learn than what some others who have it easy have to learn. But some seem very unlucky and are born into circumstances that I wouldn't wish on anybody. And from those circumstances, a human being is developed. A human being develops into a person based on those circumstances who wants to do harm to others. They didn't have the love of their family or parents. They were unaccepted by their peers. They were bullied, and they grow up to become the bullies. And for some reason, I was not born into a life like that. For some reason, I wasn't. And if I were, how would I judge that version of Juan? This is where it gets extremely tricky because I want to hold that other version of Juan accountable for how he's harming other people. And I also want to understand him. I know some of you may get very upset hearing what I'm saying, but what I really believe is that we all go to heaven. Now, I also want to challenge this thought. When we hear the word heaven, we think a place for good people. Most of us think that. What I mean by heaven is just what exists on the other side. It is not an opposite of anything. If anything, if it's an opposite of anything, it may be an opposite of what we are living in the physical world right now. But even then, I believe heaven exists everywhere in our physical world. We just don't see it or feel it enough. We don't decide to feel it or bring it forward to us, bring ourselves closer to it. But if I were to call heaven by any other name, it would just be the other side. Because heaven has this connotation of that's where good people go. No, that's where we all go, the other side. It's not an opposite of anything. But I like the word heaven because I know that the other side is full of love, full of light and God. And if that's not heaven, then what is? But to me, heaven is not a place where only good people go. Now, my mind may be convinced down the line in several years Maybe I will get a vision or I will receive some download about hell or something similar, and I'll be like, hey guys, I believe in hell now. I mean, hey, there are some near-death experiences that people have. There was one on Oprah many years ago. I was watching it on YouTube where I think it was a gentleman who was not a nice man, very unkind to his wife who was in the audience with him. But then he died and went to hell, and he became a changed man. Now, how do I dispute that, right? Because you can't disprove or prove that. He experienced it. I also do believe, though, that sometimes our spiritual belief systems can influence what we see on the other side. So if I believe in Buddha, maybe I won't see Jesus when I pass. Maybe I will see Buddha. If there's a Hindu god that really resonates with me, maybe I will see that god, but I will not see Buddha. So maybe, just maybe, the other side, the universe, adjusts to our understanding so that we feel comfortable, so we know what's familiar. Oh gosh, but now I'm thinking, it's like if I'm in a conversation with somebody and they say, well, but Juan, believing in the Buddha, believing in Jesus, those are all part of our individual experience on this planet. You, Juan, as an individual, believe in Jesus in this physical world, but when you die, you are no longer individual. You're part of all that is. So why would you just see Jesus? I don't know. I don't know. I wish I had all the answers, everybody. I wish I had all the answers. But if I had all the answers, I would be, I don't know, selling out venues and doing lectures, and but no one has all the answers, and I really believe not to seriously take anybody who says they have all the answers. I was listening to a lecture by Dolores Cannon. I've been starting to listen to her a little more. She's interesting. And she said that in her communication, in her channeling, I believe it was spirit, I don't know if it was extraterrestrials, I think it was spirit, told her that if you knew all the answers to every question, it would actually do more harm than good in this realm. I thought, oh, that's very interesting. And I wonder if it's because for many of us, we have our egos that are inflamed, and we will use the information to gain power, not to heal. I thought that was a very interesting reason for us not knowing all the answers. But yes, when we pass, I believe we are soul libraries of every life we've ever lived. Which is why when I do a mediumship reading and a soul comes through, your grandfather comes through, he can tell us parts of his life in the physical world that will resonate with you. Because that soul holds the information. At the same time, that soul is part of a greater being, everything that is. And I believe that all souls can find their way to heaven. Maybe when a soul passes and there were, let's say, someone who was very in the physical world, very egocentric, very beholden to the materialistic things, greedy, then maybe that soul decides they're not ready and they want to stay in the physical world a little bit. And that's what we may call a ghost. But even then, I believe that soul has a path to heaven. It's there. Heaven is there. God is not far away. Ever. If you think about it, when people talk about ghosts as lost souls, I mean, as a physical human being sitting in front of you, talking to this podcast microphone, I try to put out as much good as I can in my life. And there are some people I've encountered in my life who've done amazing things for me on a personal level, just in terms of moving me and helping me see life differently, changing me for good, for the better. Now, if there's a ghost who's haunting a house, and in the house lives a family or a couple, good-natured, good hearts, wouldn't you say that ghost is then in the presence of God? Doesn't God work through the good actions of people? Do I make any sense? It's how can a ghost be far away from God if we in the physical world, we experience God in little beautiful ways every day, through a smile from a stranger, through a hug when we want to feel comforted. And you're telling me a ghost isn't around to witness that? To witness these things? Ghosts only show up when they got to clock in to haunt your ass? No. Ghosts know what's up. They know that there is something bigger than this physical world, but maybe they are just they so identify with their physical life and who they were and the materialistic things they had, the struggles they went through, that they don't want to leave yet. But they know the opportunity is there, and it can be a switch. They can just decide to go to the light or to embrace the light, because the light is all around us. We just choose to not see it. And sometimes as a ghost, maybe a ghost decides the same thing. I'm going on a tangent as always. I feel like it's just a thing. It's just part of being a psychic medium, is you're going to go on tangents when you have these discussions. It's just going to happen. We are individual and we are part of all that is. And we all go to the other side. And we all go through a life review. We understand in a life review how our actions impacted people, and hopefully decide to do better next time we're born into a new body. Or we evolve on the other side as we need to. And that is a hard pill to swallow, even for me, in the midst of all the pain that's going on right now on planet Earth. It's not easy, and I'm not pretending that it is. It is what gives me hope, though, because then it lets me know that all paths lead to God. All paths lead to the light. Yeah. This month of July, I am recording little episodes just in the spirit of me being away for the month of July. I'm actually recording this a couple weeks in advance of July so that they're out and ready to go. And I'm keeping them nice and short. And I'm also experimenting with shorter episodes, because sometimes even in my solo episodes, I tend to go on forever and ever and ever and ever. And I go on side notes and tangents, and I do want to be better. I promise I want to be better at not going on tangents. I've gotten lovely messages from some of you saying that you enjoy my podcast, including my solo episodes, but I do want to do a better job of being a little bit more polished. And as it relates to my microphone situation, I'm sure that I won't regret, after stopping record on this, that I used my regular old microphone that works just fine. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little butthurt because I wanted the lavalier lapel microphone to do its job well, but c'est la vie. I guess I'll use that lapel microphone when I go on a ghost investigation or paranormal tour, or I go into a cemetery and I take you along with me. Actually, that's a good idea. I'll reserve it for that. But enough of me trying to soothe myself and trying to make myself feel better about purchasing a lavalier microphone. Enough of that. I will see you on the next episode of Third Eyesight, and I hope you have a beautiful, beautiful rest of your week. Thank you. Follow the podcast and please leave a review. If you want me to talk about a specific subject on the podcast, or you have a question for the podcast, go to juanfranciscospirit.com and go to my contact page and submit that question.